One of South Korea's largest intelligence agencies has just reported a massive personnel breach. Just what is so strange about this story, and what does it mean for the North? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. So the fact that this is a story at all in the public sphere is itself pretty crazy. Now, the South Koreans are calling this a personnel breach, but it is much more serious than just Ticketmaster leaking your intel to the Russians. This is incredibly serious because it is a classified list of South Korean military intelligence agents. Now, this was first reported by South Korea's Defense Intelligence Command, which oversees all of their army intel units. And this is a huge problem because that includes large numbers of so-called human intelligence operators. And human intelligence operators are the undercover agents, the James Bonds, so to speak, that try to recruit sources in valuable commands of different foreign adversaries. Now, what's really troubling as you scroll down, you see that this leak reportedly includes what they call white agents, or in U.S. parlance, we call them agents with official cover. These are agents who are diplomats who also engage in espionage. But then there's also what they call black agents, or what it's sometimes called knock agents, or no official cover. And these are people that don't have any public affiliation with the South Korean state. They pose as business people or some other civilian cover, like a researcher. And this is really fraught because if you have a diplomat, you're subject to diplomatic protection. You have access to the embassy. You have the right to diplomatic immunity. You have a diplomatic passport. And it's not seen as being terribly unusual for agents with diplomatic passports, or anyone with a diplomatic passport, to say be extracted from the country if they were to face potential legal charges. So the fact that all of this agents who don't have any of this formal cover are being outed is a huge problem. But there's even a little bit more to the story here, and it's really interesting. Now, before we talk about that, though, I did want to mention that if you feel like you are a little exposed, particularly to exhaustion, you may want to check out Strike Gum. Strike Gum, it's made in the USA. It's superior to an energy drink in every single way, right? We have 90 milligrams of caffeine in every single piece. So this one piece packs the caffeine of a Red Bull or an Amp Energy, but it has zero sugar. It's made in the USA. And best of all, if you need to carry it around, well, you don't have to do it like a Red Bull, you know? Look, you have an energy drink, you got to haul that thing everywhere, right? Strike Gum, you keep it in your pocket, keep it in your glove box, keep it in an office drawer, pop it, chew it, refreshing mint flavor, and you get the same surge of energy. So it's a no-brainer, right? These energy drinks are like $5 a pop for each of them, whereas you can get the equivalent of 25 energy drinks for $25 if you pick up the 5-pack. It's on strikegum.com or on Amazon. Just plug in Strike Gum and you'll see it right there on Amazon. So a huge thank you to everybody that's picked up their Strike Gum. And one other note, it's made in the USA, right? So when you buy Strike Gum, you're not bankrolling some Chinese manufacturer, right? You're not bankrolling like a mega turbo hedge fund. Literally, it's veteran owned by me, one co-founder who's also a US citizen, and it's manufactured right there in Denver. I have literally texted the dude who runs it. He's great. So it's just the superior energy solution. So check it out. Okay, here's where things get really interesting, right? First off, just a few weeks ago, the FBI indicted a North Korean expert. So they are an expert in North Korean affairs named Sumai Terry. She was a former CIA analyst, and she got busted for working for South Korea to promote Korean interest, including those of her National Intelligence Service handlers, who were diplomats in the Korean embassy in the U.S. Now, you may think, Paul, South Korea and the United States, they're staunch allies. Why would they need to have a spy inside the CIA? Well, remember, guys, even your friends, there's no such thing as a friend. It's sort of like, think of companies, right? Can two companies collaborate? Yes. Can two companies collaborate on programs for a long time? Yes. Will those two companies ever stop advocating for their own interests? No, right? They have a mandate to seek profit, to seek profitability for their shareholders. That's just inherent to being a company. Well, it's inherent to being a state that you always have to look out for your own interests first. And so that means that while the U.S. is a reliable ally, the South Koreans know that ultimately they have a responsibility to themselves, and that the U.S. is never more than one election away from leaving. And you might recall that during the Trump administration, Trump explicitly said that he would consider abandoning South Korea or making South Korea pay for its own defenses or renege on the U.S. commitment to defend the peninsula. All of those things likely made South Korea say, damn, we need to get people inside the American political decision-making apparatus so that we never get surprised like this again. So likely this was part of a larger campaign by the South to ensure they could sort of read the tea leaves before anyone else. But again, what does this have to do with this leak? And this leak is pretty weird, right? Because the classified information was leaked onto a personal laptop belonging to a military civilian sector public servant in the Overseas Operations Department. And so it's investigating the possibility that this individual may have extracted the information and leaked it deliberately. Guys, here's the fun fact. If it's on a personal laptop, and what you're describing, this is describing some of the highly classified information, full stop. Right. And you might remember like the WikiLeaks, where a U.S. military intelligence analyst with a top secret clearance pulled out a massive dump of files and put them on their personal laptop and then leaked them with almost no having reviewed them. They had limited knowledge of what was in those files. Right. They were too large for any one person to have reviewed. That is there is no way that you could just accidentally be like, let me just log into my email. You don't understand. Highly classified systems, you don't just log into. They are incredibly tightly controlled. They're oftentimes air-gapped, where physically there is no physical way to get the data from the classified computer to the unclassified computer without deliberately loading it onto some kind of drive. And even then, oftentimes those computers will have software that'll say, hey, a drive was put in our system and files were downloaded, right? So in order to do that, you again have to break a number of rules, take in a storage device of some kind into the classified facilities. Again, they're physically air-gapped too. You oftentimes have to go through a big, heavy door into an isolated room where and only in there can you view and even discuss classified information. So it is incredibly tightly controlled, again, in the West, but the South Koreans have a comparably strong protocol. I have no doubt about it. And so the fact that this made its way to a personal laptop at all is a sign that this person was doing it deliberately. Now, were they doing it on behalf of North Korea? Were they doing it on behalf of the United States, who wanted to say, hey, South Korea, we saw you're playing these games. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. This might have been a reminder to the South Koreans to say, listen, you tried to spy on us with one of our own analysts. Guess what? We've got something for you. We're going to out every one of your analysts. So don't play this game with us. All kidding aside, that wouldn't shock me in the least. The CIA does not play. And remember, the CIA, like the rest of the country, they have interests. They don't have friends. So Of course, there are rumors that this may have ended up in North Korea already. And the military said it, quote, planned to deal sternly with those responsible for the leak. But they can't confirm anything more about the leak. But it's very weird, as the New York Times points out, very strange for the South Korean authorities to even acknowledge this leak occurred. And that says that likely they feel that it's contained. Because, again, if the DPRK, if the North already had the information, one, if the damage is done, they may just say we might as well admit it so we can publicly punish the person who screwed up. Or they may think it's already been contained and that the DPRK doesn't have access to it. Because remember, North Korea, their average North Korean is unbelievably poor, but North Korean intelligence, very good. North Korea's hackers, for example, run a global cyber espionage campaign that, includes stealing classified military secrets for its weapons program, but also engaging in a massive hacking campaign. They hack into American healthcare providers, NASA, U.S. military bases, international entities, installing ransomware to fund even more attacks, right? So you're talking about a very, very sophisticated cyber warfare operation conducted by the North. So just the acknowledgement that this was on a laptop that could, in theory, have been connected to a public Wi-Fi system is itself extremely, extremely troubling. And so again, it's hard to know exactly what the whole story is. But again, this feels like a little bit of tit for tat, right? And what I find most interesting is that this ex-CIA analyst, who also apparently worked for the White House, now again, this is North Korean news, but North Korea is going to roll out every single detail possible about this story, right? When a story is favorable to North Korea, you can bet they're going to report every salacious detail of it. So this is a great example. This is someone who is extremely prominent, right? She was a former CIA analyst, some level of White House official, and she was provided, according to the indictment, with luxury goods and expensive dinners. That's all it took. She did it over the course of a decade, promoting Seoul's public policy positions and publication and media appearances, shared sensitive information with South Korean intel officers, facilitated access to U.S. government officials by Korean intelligence agents, so likely setting other people up to become agents of Korean intelligence. And in exchange, she got some nice din-dins and 37 grand in covert funding to, not to her, but to a Korean affairs public policy program she ran. And she also got some fancy handbags. That's what it takes. Again, bear in mind, White House official, CIA analyst, for sale for 37 racks and a Prada. That shit like that just kills me. Again, as they point out, there was a private meeting in 2020, right, shortly after Trump's comments, between Terry and the U.S. Secretary of State, during which she originally took detailed handwritten notes, and she reportedly met her South Korean intelligence handler immediately after the meeting and passed on the notes. Of course, Terry wrote opinion pieces under orders from the South Korean government, and one of the articles is actually in the Washington Post, where she praised the administration for its efforts to improve ties with Japan. So Washington Post, remember, just look at those stories and understand this is just another example of kind of the subterfuge that happens inside of this statecraft, right? This is all like war inside a war. And these are friends, guys, right? So you might remember that there was also, this isn't just a CIA analyst, right? There's also a Democratic senator. Here we go. Bob Menendez, long-serving Democratic senator. Same basic thing, operating as an unregistered agent of a foreign power who was bribed by the government of Egypt and Qatar with cash and gold bars. And again, this went on for like a decade plus. This is a U.S. senator, guys. And while Menendez says he never violated his public oath, he pled guilty to all 16 counts. Right? And of course, his wife Nadine had her trial delayed. But this is just a classic case study. And again, what does it take to bribe a U.S. senator? Oh, 48 grand in cash. And probably some gold bars and a couple other treats. But still, for context, guys, $1 million, $2 million is what an average McDonald's makes in a year. So when you talk about a senator, yeah, it's $2 million is a lot to you and I. But for these businesses or for the state of Egypt or the state of Qatar, it's peanuts to buy a senator. So again, the takeaway, guys, understand that when you read something that seems crazy and biased, when you hear about a senator doing something or passing legislation that sounds like it really is just a gimme to a foreign country, understand that behind the scenes, the U.S. is so big and so rich that it is worth it even for our allies to try to dig themselves into it. And you can take heart by the fact that the U.S. probably doesn't take this sort of thing lying down. Except for the case of Egypt. Egypt, we still need to be friends with because apparently we expect them to resolve the Gaza crisis. But actually, that's apparently the United States' obligation. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Huge thank you to the Colonel tier members, especially Martin Baum, Greg Pace, Stuart Abel, Daniel Brown, James Ola, Chris Holmes, and Chris Gorsuch. Couldn't do it without you guys. Couldn't do it with all the Lieutenant tier members. And I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.